doing and reducing it through your mind so you've taken all the mystery out of it to make yourself feel safe. But the fun is, there used to be an old radio show called I Love a Mystery. And what I would say is that what I'm finding is that the way in which we approach our death is critical to the experience we have of life. And that if I were approaching my death, which I am, it's not like Bob Dole saying, if I were a senior citizen. Poor Bob Dole. There's just a very funny image. I mean, to all of you that are Doleites, this is all in fun. But he was asked, do you wear briefs or shorts? Because Clinton had been asked that. And presidential candidate Dole said, depends. You and I live in a what could be called a primarily scientific materialist philosophy. Whether we are individually, but the society in which we are, while it calls itself Judeo-Christian or whatever it calls itself, with some Islamic people in it, it basically, the shopping malls are the temples. And you walk through them with eyes big as you look at the deities of incredible stuff to consume. And we have been so well trained as consumers, which is the way those role identities are. You're a producer and consumer in a materialist world, that you really get off on consuming or anticipating consuming or being afraid of consuming or over-consuming or whatever. Consuming is a big deal. And the predicament with scientific materialism is it's really has a really hard time with death. Because death, from a true materialist point of view, is, quote, the end. And and then they're opposed by all these religious traditions in which somebody said, well, I was there and I come back and I'll tell you it's like this. And you have all the blind men and the elephant. All the different blind men, blind persons went to see the elephant, and they came back and they were having lunch talking about an elephant, and one said it's very like a snake because they touched the tusk, and somebody else said it's very like a tree because they touched the leg. Somebody else like a wall because they touched the side of the elephant. And that's sort of what religions are. And what they do is promise you a belief in a model of reality afterwards. So what I realized now was that between those two places, when I looked at what had happened to me over these 35 years, I saw that I had a very deep, I don't know what word, I'll try faith. Not a faith in, but being in faith. About the fact that there was a larger context in which I existed than the one that I could smell, taste, see, hear, touch, or think about. And that I didn't really understand it. And that who I thought I was really couldn't understand it. And for me to understand it, I would have to transform myself into being it. So I live my life every day within this larger context. It's like taking a frame and putting a bigger frame on a painting, and more of the painting comes into view. I can out of the corner of my eye see that there is some inherent, like I look at suffering, like if I say to you, have you had a stage in your life when you were suffering, which might be now, but some of them in the past? Most of you would go like that. And then I would say to you, well, I'll tell you what I have found, and I'm curious whether you found it too. As much as I hated that suffering, when I look at who I am now, I realize that that suffering was one of the root nurturance of my compassion. And I don't want to ever have that suffering again, and I don't want to lay it on anybody else. See, I won't say it's good for you, go suffer, because I found it good. But I'll tell you that my suffering has turned out in some bizarre way to be grace, in the sense of making me a more aware and compassionate and present human being. So I live with the mystery from moment to moment. And what the soul is because the soul is sort of an in-between being. It's like a step on a ladder that you're going to later throw away. What you do is you can use soul identity like you are somebody on another plane. Just like when you dreamt last night, you thought you were somebody else, didn't you? If you entered into your own dream, you probably didn't enter in just as who you are now. You entered in some other way. And you woke up and you said, that's all a dream. And so is this one. And the question is, knowing it's a dream, that's like lucid dreaming. Knowing it's a dream, can you continue to dream? That's what the soul does. The soul appreciates that it's a dream, and the ego is in the dream. And if you push away the ego, what I found was if I cultivated that aversion to that dream, I was trapped. I was never going to be free. And to be free meant I had to passionately engage myself in all of this without fear, and at the same moment, and that was the balancing part of consciousness, live in the plane where I understood it was a dream. Leela, play, whatever you want to call it. And then, once you have started to stabilize and establish yourself as soul awareness, or your awareness through the identity of your soul, and getting to be a soul is really not a big scary thing, because you're still going to be a separate entity. You're still going to be you're going to be somebody. It's different, but you're somebody. But then the next stage is between soul and awareness. And it's like the final orgasm with the beloved. It's the final surrender of separateness. And to say to somebody that is busy being somebody in ego, well, what's required in this spiritual journey for you to be free is that you must die. What is required is the surrender of your entire sense of separateness. You don't get many takers. They say, just a minute, I'm planning to do it later. It's a really nice idea, and I understand it theoretically. Now, just a minute, I haven't done my living will yet. So what the soul is an in-between territory. You can hang out and feel safe as a somebody until the pull between that soul and the awareness that embraces it, or the return to the mother, to the union, to the oneness, to the becomes so great. And all the poetry of Rumi and Hafiz and Kabir and all of the romantic poets and the songs in the Bible, I mean, all of those yearnings to be with the beloved, that becomes so powerful at that moment. Because what the soul is a being that can be with other beings in love. And it's not a relational dance. What are we, 10 minutes? Thank you. You all okay? Yeah. I'm a real schlock practitioner, by the way. I mean, you know, I eat chicken. I'm not bragging or complaining, I'm just noting. It's my karma. It's whatever it is. But in that Dzogchen practice, what it says in effect is allowing for these different, what I've done is I've taken all the different planes of non-ordinary states of consciousness and all the multitude of planes, the chakras, the 7 and the 14 and the 3 and the 9 and the whatever you got from all the different systems. And I've said, look, what do I need of all this to do my journey? And I realized that I would settle for the 3, the ego, the soul, and awareness. And awareness would cover my whole Buddhist commitment, since I knew that was the root, what is. And then on the way there, I would use my dualistic devotional practices of extricating myself from my ego into my soul. And as I came up from my ego into my soul, the release of not being trapped in these very tight identities with role, of coming up into just being this awareness, still separate, but just this awareness, aware of my body, aware of my life story, aware of everybody else, just aware. And you and I could meet, and we could experience a quality of love that was not a relational love. It's relational, but it wasn't a psychodynamic love. It wasn't, do you love me, I love you. It wasn't romantic love. It was a quality of what might be called conscious love or Christ love or whatever that quality is, in which it was safe for us to love one another because the identities weren't made so complicated by I need, I want, I desire, I hope, I fear, which is all our ego storyline. So we could meet, are you there as a fellow soul? I'm here. Far out, isn't it? Interesting life, isn't it? I walk into a room with somebody that's dying of AIDS. Young person, dream shattered, family ostracizing, economic hardship, opportunistic illnesses, suffering. It is such a powerful symbol, it's almost impossible for anybody in our society to walk in without reacting in some way to the symbolic identity of that person. And I walk in and I work on my consciousness and I keep quieting down because I have all the reactions everybody else has. And I don't push them away, but it's like, and also, and I just keep coming back into this other place where it's a fellow soul just like me, and we've taken different incarnations, and this one is ending this way and going through this process. And I, in effect, am saying, I don't say it, I'm just sitting there, making my consciousness an environment where if that person would like to come out and play, I'm right here. I have no moral right to define what that person should do. I don't know what their karmic predicament is. If you were, you should die the way I think you should die. Nonsense. It's a mystery. Death is a mystery, the process of death. What I offer that person is my consciousness is present. Are you here? I'm here. And it's amazing that a person who has been suffering immensely and surrounded by people who were caught in the suffering and therefore were reacting to it, which was reinforcing its reality, suddenly the person was just waiting and comes right out. Yeah, I'm here. Well, what's it like dying of AIDS? Well, I'll tell you, this is a drag and this is interesting and I can transmute this, but this one's got me. And I say, well, I'd suggest you try this, and how about that? And that would be interesting. And we meet right behind this incredibly seductive drama. And I'll tell you something, the highest work I do in my life, day by day, is being with dying people. Because it's the place where there's no bullshit needed. You can be right here. They got nothing to lose. And at that moment, people can open like flowers. It is incredible. It is such a gift. It just keeps me right at the edge of the mystery. And I would say to you, what I want to do is I want to approach a mystery. 2 minutes. I want to approach a mystery with clarity of mind. I want to approach a mystery with a sense of adventure. I want to approach a mystery with an appreciation and love for the mystery and the forms of the universe. And I would like to just be present at that moment, just like I'd like to be present. And the best preparation for the moment of death is this moment. And if you live this moment here, you watch people age and you will see the most fascinating thing. They go from this incredible plan for the future. And then when they look at the future, all it's got is chronic pain, pills, doctors, and death. And then suddenly they leap into the past and they say, do you remember that wonderful time we had? And pretty soon they've got pictures and they've got grandchildren. It's all then. No, grandchildren is now, but stories of the grandchildren is then. And they go right over the present moment, which was their salvation. It's so bizarre. It was the salvation. To bring the consciousness into this moment is the best preparation for death, and to allow that this is the mystery. That this is the mystery. And establish that role of being a listener to the mystery. Play at the edge. Einstein said, if you don't cozy up to mystery, you're missing life. I'm paraphrasing. So I would say that understanding what you and I are doing on earth, we are here to awaken, to become free beings with heart open, with not caught in mind, in order to be instruments for the relief of the suffering of all of it of which we are a part. So there's nothing personal about it. When I'm with suffering, I don't say it's his suffering or it's her suffering. It is our suffering. If you take it the next level, even beyond that one, it's my suffering. And then don't make it so personal that has too much of a kind of messianic stuff. It's the suffering. And out of the suffering comes the response. If you've got a splinter in your finger, you pull it out with the other finger, and the first finger doesn't say to the second one, thank you. Because you know you're part of the same thing. And there was nothing personal. It was just the way of things. You and I have the capacity to bring two planes of consciousness to our lives. And you will see how sticky that plane of ego is as you start to pull yourself into soul awareness, not to deny ego, but to delight in it. To delight in aging, to delight in sickness, to delight in death, to turn the whole game around so that fire becomes water and water becomes fire.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Love Serve Remember Foundation and ramdas.org. We appreciate all the support for the foundation and for Ram Dass's work, and we hope that you will continue that support. You can go to ramdas.org and click on the Donate Now button and follow the prompts. Thank you. This podcast is brought to you by the Love Serve Remember Foundation and ramdas.org. Welcome to Ram Dass Here and Now, and I'm Raghu Marcus, and we've got a surprise today, a surprise guest, although not live. As many of you know, and most of you that have been listening to this podcast it's going on a year and some months, I believe, at this point. And I usually find an essency Ram Dass talk and just take a part of it and introduce it and sometimes relate my own experience with what he's talking about. I'm going to switch up because we're going to do something that is with another teacher. It's not Ram Dass today. And it's going to be a two-part thing, so I hope everybody enjoys it. Do give me some feedback at info@ramdas.org or on the podcast site, and just, let me know what you think of this little switch-up with Sharon. Now, many of you know Sharon, I have to think, because she's so closely associated with Ram Dass and has done many different things with him, from retreats to online workshops and so on and so forth. And we really have known each other for a very long time, since the old India days. And for those of you that remember, Ram Dass tells this story a lot about being at the Vipassana course in Bodh Gaya, and meeting many, many people who have stayed very close to each other for all these years, and many of whom came to meet Neem Karoli Baba, Maharaji. And one of those people at that course, and then he goes off on this bus ride where he meets Maharaji, actually for the first time since he had it'd been many months. He had gotten to India, and then maybe 5 months went by before he could see him again. He saw him, I believe, in the fall of 70 when he went back, and many of us went over at the same time. So Sharon was there, and that began a tremendous friendship with Sharon, with many of us from that Maharaji satsang, and of course Ram Dass, and myself included. And so this talk that I'm going to play in two parts is taken from a talk that she did in my little hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, because we invited her to come through here, and just gives us an opportunity to hang out, and no more, fun than that. So she came, and the title of the talk she gave, and it was also a weekend workshop, was Loving Kindness in the Face of Adversity. So that's where this talk comes from. And and for those of you who don't know, Sharon is has a Vipassana center in Barre, Massachusetts, Insight Meditation. And she has been teaching in this country ever since the 70s, when she and her two compatriots, Jack Kornfield and Joseph Goldstein, came back to America, and they have been leading lights and have helped so many people. And Sharon is just, I don't want to get too gushy here, but just some practical, wise teachings and a beautiful, compassionate heart. And she is, as far as I'm concerned, the essence of bhakti and Buddhist wisdom. And so I highly encourage you all, even though it's not Ram Dass, but you know what? It's no more or less than coming from the same heart. It really is. And so in this talk, she talks a lot about, just a basic concept that this is about, you don't have to join anything. You don't have to be a Buddhist around this. These are tools and techniques that you can utilize to have a happier life. I mean, this is direct words from her. These tools do not require a belief system, which is a wonderful thing for many of us in these times, where, you don't have to go to India. You don't have to join anything. It's about retraining the conditions of the mind to have a happier life. Simple as that. In my own experience around that word happiness is being with Maharaji in India. And my father came to visit my brother, and I've told this on other podcasts, or at least once before, but just it fits really well here. with what Sharon's talking about. And anyhow, he said to my father, you came to see your sons? And he said, yes. And so, so he said, I came to see how they were doing. My father said this. And he said, so how are they doing? And my father said, well, they seem to be happy. Happy, we were beyond happy. And Maharaji said, happiness is everything. So we've had this discussion. Obviously, he's not meaning happiness. Yeah, we get to, spend the rest of our life, eating good food, going to the movies, watching a game, whatever it is. There's a richness in that, in the potential of that word, which Sharon is what she's talking about, and that is, in my mind, it's about balance. It's about being able to keep a peaceful heart amidst the chaos and the speed of what we go through here in the West, and it's about contentment. The Buddhists use being at ease. That's a great term, being at ease with whatever comes one's way. So I think happiness is a very rich term. Now, Sharon expresses it beautifully in a book she wrote. This is not a couple of years ago, I think. It's called Real Happiness. And I just have to read a little something from this. It's never too late to turn on the light. Your ability to break an unhealthy habit or turn off an old tape doesn't depend on how long it's been running. A shift in perspective doesn't depend on how long you've held on to the old view. When you flip the switch in that attic, it doesn't matter whether it's been dark for 10 minutes, 10 years, or 10 decades. The light still illuminates the room and banishes the dark. That's just one little piece from and one great picture of the way in which Sharon relates and the way in which some really valuable information comes that can help. This is from the workshop she did, from the talk I'm going to play, which is actually from it was on a Friday night. The possibility of retraining your mind in a new way, so the old patterns of pushing away or holding on or being distracted or being ashamed, they can be challenged. They can be let go of into a whole new way of relating to our experience. I mean, just straight on helpful stuff. I love it. And before I'm going to play it, I have to, this is the essence of it all for me, really. All of this has nothing to do with Buddhism per se. It has to do with being a human being and having a capacity to look deeper into our lives. It's simplistic. And I would also be remiss in not mentioning Sharon's new book with Robert Thurman, Love Your Enemies, How to Break the Anger Habit and Be a Whole Lot Happier. Back to the happiness. This is an add-on. And I was first in line to get this book, okay, everybody? Because break the anger habit. That's certainly been a toughie. And the book deals with self-centeredness and self-hatred, and it really addresses the whole idea of self-cherishing. So you can get those books, by the way, Real Happiness or Love Your Enemies. Go to Amazon. Go through our portal on ramdas.org. We have an Amazon portal. I think you can find it along one of the blog headings down in just below the middle of the page. But then if you, that's a great way to help support the foundation, because we get a little piece of everything that you buy from Amazon. So if you just bookmark that Amazon portal, that would be wonderful and would help us. Another way you can help us, and I want to, just before we get this going, again mention, we're in the middle of an amazing campaign to fund digitizing the entire Ram Dass and Friends, because it's everything, including what I'm going to play with this Sharon talk that I'm going to play, and making that available on the net and searchable, and we're going to be able to do amazing things by just being able to index stuff, so that when you want to just find out about, grief or compassion, or how to deal with the emotions, how to develop compassion, any of these things, you'll be able to just go do this, and that's what this project is about. And you can win a 3-day personal retreat with Ram Dass, and your whole trip is paid for. So we're, like I say, we're about halfway there, trying to get to our goal, and we got another month to go. And there's all different ways to support, all sorts of wonderful there's a Be Here Now clock that's amazing, that you would love, and a new poster for a book coming out in February. So lots of fun things to get involved with to help support this project. Go to urgencynetwork.com/BeHereNow. urgencynetwork.com/BeHereNow, or just go to ramdass.org, and when you're over there ordering your Amazon books, there is a banner that you can link to get to this site, and it explains everything. So here we go. Thanks for everybody's support, and we'll see you next time.
A year ago, a full year ago, more even, I was in New York City and flying from Newark Airport to Chicago. And it turned out to be one of those events where the flight was delayed an hour, and then another hour, and then another hour, and I had a really bad feeling. And then finally it was canceled, and it was canceled at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and it was too late for me to get another flight, and I ended up being up literally the entire night on the phone with airlines, and I got another flight and flew to Chicago the next day. So yesterday I went to Newark Airport, and I had this eerie feeling. I really did. I thought, somehow this feels like that other day, a year ago, and there was supposed to be these torrential storms later in the day, and I had checked, and I thought, oh good, my flight's leaving before the storms are supposed to hit. And then I watched them postpone it an hour, and postpone it like another half an hour, and I thought, oh no. So I went up to this really sweet guy working behind the ticket counter, and this feeds into the question, which we'll get into, of loving kindness and anger, because you can imagine how people were. And I said to him, what do you think? And he said, the flight's supposed to be leaving Florida and check in 15 minutes. If it hasn't left Florida, I don't think it's going to happen. So I checked back in 15 minutes, hadn't left Florida. So